Respect isn't something you demand, it's something you command through your actions, values, and most importantly, your boundaries. If you let the world walk all over you, especially in relationships, you lose not only her respect, but your own. Today, I'll share 5 powerful boundaries that make women see you differently, think twice before crossing you, and ultimately, respect you more. Respect isn't just something you get overnight. It's built over time through consistent actions, choices, and most importantly, how you allow others to treat you. One of the biggest mistakes men make, especially in relationships, is tolerating disrespect. They don't draw the line, and as a result, they end up feeling less valued and their partner starts seeing them as someone who's okay with being treated poorly. The truth is, no one will respect you unless you show them what kind of treatment you're willing to tolerate, and more importantly, what you won't. You cannot afford to tolerate disrespect, whether it's small, passive-aggressive remarks, belittling comments, or direct insults. When you tolerate these things, you're not just letting her get away with disrespect. You're teaching her that it's acceptable behavior, that it doesn't matter, that you don't value yourself enough to set limits. Now let's talk about the different forms of disrespect that you should never tolerate. First, there's emotional disrespect. This can come in the form of manipulative behavior, guilt-tripping, or any form of emotional blackmail. If she tries to guilt-trip you into doing something by making you feel like a bad person or unworthy of her, that's not just disrespect, that's manipulation. A woman who loves you should never try to make you feel small or like you're constantly walking on eggshells around her. If she does, this is where you need to make the choice. Either set the boundary or stay in a cycle of emotional mistreatment. When you set a firm boundary against emotional manipulation, you're sending a message that you will not allow anyone to make you feel guilty for taking care of your own mental and emotional health. Another type of disrespect is verbal disrespect. This could be insults, sarcastic comments, or talking down to you in public or private. You cannot let these comments slide, even if they seem like jokes or something she said in the heat of the moment. If she insults you or disrespects you verbally, this is an indication that she either doesn't understand or doesn't care about the impact of her words. A relationship can't thrive on constant verbal jabs. If you're letting them slide because you don't want to make a scene or avoid confrontation, you're allowing this toxic behavior to continue. You need to stand up for yourself and address these comments immediately. Let her know that her words are not acceptable. If she values you, she'll take accountability for her words, and if she doesn't, she'll continue to use these verbal tactics to break you down over time. Then there's the more subtle type of disrespect, the passive-aggressive behaviors. These can often be harder to pinpoint, but they're just as damaging. It might look like her ignoring your needs or withholding affection or attention as a way of controlling you. It could also involve her testing your patience, seeing how much you'll tolerate before you react. These small, seemingly innocent actions build up and erode your sense of self-worth. The problem with passive-aggressive behavior is that it's designed to be manipulative. She'll make it seem like you're the one who's overreacting or being too sensitive. But here's the thing. When someone purposely withholds kindness, affection, or communication to get under your skin, that's not love. That's manipulation. When you allow this to continue, you slowly start to lose your confidence. And when you lose your confidence, you lose her respect. There's also the issue of physical disrespect, which can sometimes be overlooked. Whether it's something as simple as an invasion of personal space or more serious, such as aggressive physical gestures, it is something that needs to be addressed immediately. If she disrespects your personal space, your body, or makes you feel unsafe, that should be an immediate deal breaker. Physical disrespect crosses a boundary that is fundamental to any relationship. You should never feel physically intimidated, belittled, or hurt in any way, and the moment you allow this kind of behavior, you're telling her that it's acceptable. And remember, no one will respect you if you don't respect your own personal boundaries. If you allow her to push you in ways you don't like or make you feel physically uncomfortable, she will lose respect for you, even if she doesn't consciously know it at the time. Respect for your physical space is just as important as respect for your emotional and mental boundaries. And what happens if you keep tolerating these forms of disrespect? Eventually, you start to resent her. You'll become frustrated, withdrawn, or angry, and that will eat away at the relationship. What's worse, she'll begin to see you as weak. A man who doesn't stand up for himself, who doesn't draw the line, who doesn't demand respect, is a man who no longer holds her interest. She'll lose respect for you and for the relationship. Relationships are built on mutual respect, and respect cannot exist when you allow disrespect to be the foundation of your interactions. The key is to recognize it early. You don't need to let these behaviors slide, even once. Set the standard for how you want to be treated from the very beginning. When you show a woman that you won't tolerate disrespect, you're showing her that you value yourself enough to demand the same level of respect that you give. And that's not just attractive, it's necessary. You might think that standing up for yourself will push her away, that it will cause conflict, but the truth is, when you set boundaries like this, you're showing strength. You're showing her that you're not afraid to walk away from something that doesn't serve you or bring you peace. Women find that kind of strength magnetic. They respect a man who respects himself and who values his own worth enough to not tolerate disrespect from anyone. So remember, if you want respect, the first step is simple. Don't tolerate disrespect, not for a second. Set the tone, set the boundary, and enforce it. Your respect and dignity are too important to let anyone take them from you. And when you don't tolerate disrespect, you make it clear to everyone around you that you know exactly what you're worth, and you're not going to settle for anything less than that. Your time is one of the most precious resources you have, and yet so many men overlook its importance when it comes to their relationships. The problem is when you let others, especially women, constantly take your time for granted, you're sending a message that you don't value yourself or your own goals. Time is something you can't get back. Once it's gone for good. And when you allow someone to waste your time, you're essentially allowing them to disrespect you. Women are often drawn to men who have a clear purpose in life, men who are ambitious, driven, and passionate about something. When a woman sees that you have goals and plans, she understands that your time is valuable and she will respect that. But when you drop everything, cancel your plans, and make yourself constantly available just to cater to her every need, you diminish your own value in her eyes. It's an unspoken signal that you don't have anything better to do, and that you're willing to prioritize her over your own life and ambitions. This isn't a subtle thing. It's a clear message, and it's something that affects her perception of you, often without you even realizing it. If she doesn't see that you're someone who has his own commitments, who values his own time, and who doesn't drop everything just to accommodate her, then she will lose respect for you. Think about it. Women admire men who are busy in the best sense. It shows strength of character, discipline, and self-respect. When you're constantly available, you might think you're being accommodating, but what you're really doing is creating an imbalance. You're teaching her that her time is more important than yours, and that's the last lesson you want to impart. A woman who respects you will appreciate the fact that you have your own life and that you're not going to drop everything just because she calls. This doesn't mean you should ignore her or make her feel unimportant, but it does mean you should establish a healthy balance between your time with her and your other commitments. Don't make the mistake of putting all your focus on her at the expense of your own passions, career, or hobbies. Your time must be allocated in a way that reflects your priorities, and a woman who truly respects you will understand and even admire that. If you always let her have the last word, the last say, and the last bit of your time, you're creating a pattern of behavior that devalues both of you. You're not only giving up your time, you're giving up your power. Another aspect of protecting your time is about setting boundaries around your availability. This doesn't mean you shouldn't make time for her, but it does mean that you should be mindful of when and how you make yourself available. If she's constantly demanding your attention at inappropriate times, or if she's trying to monopolize your day without regard for your own responsibilities, it's time to draw the line. For example, if you're in the middle of a project, a task, or even just taking time to rest and recharge, and she insists that you drop everything to be with her, you need to stand firm. Let her know that you value your personal time and that there are moments when you need to focus on other areas of your life. This doesn't mean you love her any less. It just means that you respect both her and yourself enough to not give up your time for things that are not in alignment with your life's goals. And this is where your time management becomes essential. The more you allow yourself to be busy with things that matter to you, the more women will respect you. They will see that you're not just idle, waiting for their next move. You have your own life, your own direction. When a woman sees that you're a man with purpose, she knows that she can't just pull you away from your goals at the drop of a hat. She'll respect your time more, and as a result, she'll value you more. You'll become more attractive not because of what you do for her, but because of who you are when you're focused on your own mission. Women are attracted to men who are driven, who know where they're going, and who use their time wisely. It shows that you're not only self-sufficient, but that you're also able to manage your time effectively, which is an attractive trait. You should also set boundaries around your time when it comes to social events and interactions. There's nothing wrong with making plans with friends, family, or on your own, and a woman who truly respects you will understand that you need that time for yourself or with others. If she doesn't respect that, it's a red flag. A woman who doesn't respect your need for personal time or time spent with other people is someone who might be trying to control you, and this is dangerous for both your well-being and the health of the relationship. When you let her monopolize your time and never make room for your other relationships or personal space, you're setting yourself up for failure. She may start to expect that you're always available for her, and this is not healthy for anyone involved. You have to show her that you're your own person with your own needs and that you cannot be there every second of the day just because she wants you there. Furthermore, when you manage your time well, you're setting a standard that other people, including her, will have to respect. You're demonstrating that you are the master of your own life and not someone who can be dictated by the whims of others. She'll respect you for your ability to manage your schedule, and she'll learn to appreciate that your time is not something that can be taken for granted. This applies not just to her, but to everyone in your life. The more you respect your own time, the more others will respect it as well, and this will create a positive cycle of respect and value in your relationships. Being busy isn't just about having a packed calendar, it's about having a purpose. If you're constantly focused on something, whether it's your career, a personal project, or even a hobby that you're passionate about, you're building a life that is separate from her. This creates an attractive sense of independence. Women don't want to feel like their entire world revolves around them. They want to feel that you're a man with your own life and passions, and that they are a part of that life, not the center of it. When you have a well-structured life where you prioritize your time, she will appreciate the moments you spend with her because they will be meaningful, not just the result of you having nothing else to do. Ultimately, by setting boundaries around your time, you're not just protecting your own interests, you're enhancing the relationship. When she knows you value your time, she'll value it too. She'll appreciate the time you give her more because it will come from a place of mutual respect, not from a place of obligation or convenience. This boundary, when respected, leads to a deeper, more meaningful connection built on admiration for each other's time and priorities. So the next time you feel tempted to cancel your plans or sacrifice your time just to please her, ask yourself this: does this align with your values and the kind of relationship you want to build? If the answer is no, then don't let it slide. Set the boundary and make her respect your time. Emotional accountability is one of the most vital aspects of any relationship, and it's something that many men overlook. At its core, emotional accountability means taking responsibility for your emotions, your actions, and how they impact others. When it comes to relationships, this means that both you and your partner need to be able to communicate openly and honestly about how you feel, without resorting to manipulation, blame, or passive-aggressive behavior. It's about being in control of your emotions and not using them as a weapon to control the other person. If you're not holding yourself emotionally accountable, or if she isn't holding herself emotionally accountable, the relationship will slowly deteriorate and respect will be lost. First and foremost, emotional accountability is about honesty. Many people, especially in the early stages of a relationship, try to hide their emotions or suppress their feelings, thinking it's easier to keep things smooth and avoid confrontation. However, this doesn't help anyone in the long run. When you don't express your emotions openly, they start to build up. Instead of talking about what's bothering you, you bottle it up inside, and it festers until it's either blown out of proportion or it comes out in a way that's not productive. This is where emotional manipulation comes in. She might try to manipulate your emotions to get what she wants, whether it's making you feel guilty for something you didn't do or turning the situation around to make you feel like you're the one at fault. This can happen in subtle ways, like making you feel responsible for her happiness or creating a narrative where you're the villain without any clear explanation of why. This isn't emotional accountability, it's emotional dishonesty. When you're emotionally accountable, you take responsibility for how you feel. This means not blaming her or anyone else for your emotions, but acknowledging what you're experiencing and why you're feeling the way you do. For example, if something she did upset you, instead of immediately accusing her or getting angry, you need to be able to say, "I feel hurt because of what happened, and I need to talk about it." This allows both of you to engage in a mature, healthy conversation about the issue at hand, instead of creating a toxic environment where you're either suppressing your emotions or projecting them onto her. The more you can do this, the more she will respect you. Women are drawn to men who can take responsibility for their feelings without resorting to blame or manipulation. When she sees that you're able to recognize your emotions and express them calmly and respectfully, she will respect you more. It shows maturity, self-awareness, and emotional strength, qualities that are deeply attractive. One of the most important aspects of emotional accountability is communication. This is where a lot of couples struggle. Often, one partner, or both, will avoid talking about issues because they don't want to cause conflict. But what happens when you avoid the problem? It only grows larger, and the emotional distance between you and your partner widens. If you're constantly walking on eggshells, avoiding the tough conversations or pretending everything is fine when it isn't, it sends the message that you're afraid to deal with real emotions. This only erodes trust and respect over time. Emotional accountability requires that both partners communicate openly about their feelings, especially when something is bothering them. Now, this doesn't mean you should go around venting your emotions at every little thing that happens. Emotional accountability is about knowing when it's appropriate to bring up an issue and doing so in a way that's respectful and constructive. If you're upset about something she did, it's important to communicate that in a way that isn't attacking or accusatory. Instead of saying, "You always do this and you never listen," you could approach it from a place of vulnerability, like, "I felt hurt when that happened and I'd like to talk about it." The difference here is huge. The first approach places blame and makes her defensive. The second approach takes ownership of your own feelings and invites her into a conversation, not a confrontation. This leads into the concept of emotional regulation. Being emotionally accountable also means being able to regulate your own emotions, especially in times of conflict. Everyone has moments of frustration or anger, but what matters is how you deal with those emotions. When you're in a heated moment, it's easy to let your emotions take control and say things you don't mean, or to act out of frustration. This not only damages your relationship, but also makes it harder for her to respect you. If you lose control of your emotions frequently, she might start to feel like she can't rely on you for stability. Emotional regulation means taking a step back when you're upset and giving yourself space to process what you're feeling before responding. If you're feeling angry, instead of immediately snapping at her or going silent, take a deep breath, walk away if needed, and come back when you've calmed down. This shows maturity, self-awareness, and respect for both yourself and your relationship. Another key component of emotional accountability is being able to apologize when you're wrong. It's not about being perfect, but about acknowledging when you've hurt someone and taking responsibility for it. Many men struggle with this because they believe that admitting they're wrong will make them look weak, but in reality, it's the opposite. Owning up to your mistakes shows strength and integrity. If you hurt her feelings, whether it was intentional or not, apologizing shows that you value her emotions and that you respect the relationship enough to admit when you're at fault. This builds trust and deepens the bond between you. And remember, a sincere apology isn't about saying, "I'm sorry if you felt hurt." It's about saying, "I'm sorry for what I did, and I understand why it hurt you. The latter shows that you're emotionally mature enough to not only acknowledge your mistake, but also to understand its impact on her. But emotional accountability isn't just about managing your own emotions. It's also about holding her accountable for hers. If she's behaving in a way that's emotionally manipulative, dishonest, or toxic, it's your responsibility to set boundaries and address it. You can't allow her to act in ways that disrespect you emotionally, just as she can't allow you to behave in ways that disrespect her. For example, if she's constantly trying to guilt-trip you or make you feel responsible for her happiness, you need to call it out. Emotional accountability means confronting these behaviors directly and setting a standard for how you expect to be treated. You don't have to tolerate emotional games or manipulation, and you certainly don't have to accept it when she isn't holding herself accountable. If both of you hold each other accountable for your emotional responses, your relationship will thrive. You'll learn how to communicate more effectively, work through conflicts maturely, and create a space where both of you feel safe to express yourselves without fear of judgment or manipulation. In the end, emotional accountability is one of the most powerful tools you can have in a relationship. It builds trust, strengthens communication, and fosters a deep mutual respect between partners. When both of you are emotionally accountable, you're not only protecting your relationship from emotional harm, but you're also growing together. And a relationship that grows, one that is based on real emotional understanding, is one that will last. Personal space and independence are often overlooked in relationships, but they are absolutely essential for maintaining respect and balance. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that love means being together all the time or being constantly available to each other. However, this type of thinking can be toxic and ultimately leads to resentment. When you allow yourself or your partner to invade each other's personal space too much, you begin to lose a sense of individuality, and without individuality, respect begins to fade. One of the first things that gets sacrificed in a relationship when you lose this boundary is your personal identity. Each person needs space to be themselves, to recharge, and to pursue their own interests. And when you respect this need, you send the message that you care about her as an individual and you're not trying to control or smother her. When we talk about personal space, it's not just about physical space. It's also emotional and mental space. It's about having the freedom to be alone, to think, to reflect, and to pursue your own goals without feeling guilt. Men often think that by constantly giving attention or by being overly involved in their partner's day-to-day life, they're showing how much they care. But the truth is, by not respecting the need for personal space, they are often unintentionally suffocating the relationship. A woman may feel that you're overly dependent on her for emotional validation, or she might feel like she doesn't have room to breathe and be her own person. This is where the boundary of personal space comes in. It's about giving each other the opportunity to exist independently. A healthy relationship thrives when both individuals are allowed to grow individually. This doesn't mean pulling away from each other or creating emotional distance, but rather creating a balance where both partners can grow, learn, and develop on their own terms. Women respect men who have their own lives, passions, and interests. A man who has his own hobbies, friendships, and pursuits outside of the relationship is attractive because it signals self-sufficiency and confidence. When you have your own life, you create a sense of mystery, and you allow her to miss you, which only enhances the attraction. If you're always available and always at her side, you become predictable, and she starts to take you for granted. Your value increases when you maintain a sense of independence and don't make her the center of your entire world. Independence doesn't mean being distant or emotionally unavailable. It means that you're emotionally self-sufficient. You don't need to be constantly validated or affirmed by your partner because you have your own sense of self-worth. When you respect her space, you're showing her that you trust her enough to give her the freedom she needs and that you're confident enough in the relationship that you don't need to keep checking in or hovering. The key here is balance. It's about knowing when to give each other space and when to come together. If you're constantly trying to occupy her time and attention, you risk making her feel trapped. The relationship should feel like a space where both partners are free to grow, not one where they feel obligated to be around each other at all times. The emotional space you give one another is equally important. Sometimes a person needs space to process their feelings or to work through something on their own. If she's going through a tough time or needs to think things through, it's important to respect her need for space. This isn't about pulling away emotionally. It's about understanding that sometimes she might need time to herself, and that's okay. If you try to force her to open up or demand her attention when she's not ready to give it, you're crossing a boundary. The same goes for you. If you're feeling overwhelmed or need time to reflect on something, don't be afraid to express that you need a little space. A partner who respects this emotional boundary will allow you the time you need without taking it personally or trying to make you feel guilty for needing space. Respecting personal space also involves recognizing that not every moment has to be shared. It's important to have moments apart, whether it's spending time with friends, doing solo activities, or just having some quiet time to recharge. These breaks allow both of you to return to each other with a sense of freshness and appreciation. When you spend too much time together without any personal space, you risk experiencing what's often referred to as relationship fatigue. This happens when you become overly dependent on each other for your emotional needs, and you start to feel drained instead of energized by each other's presence. Giving space to one another not only prevents this, but strengthens the connection by allowing each person to maintain their individual identity. Having a sense of autonomy and personal space doesn't mean that you don't value the relationship or that you're not invested. In fact, it's the opposite. It's about maintaining your sense of self while being committed to the relationship. By respecting personal space, you show that you're secure in the relationship and that you trust your partner. You don't need to be constantly in each other's presence to prove that you care. Trust is a major factor here. When you respect her need for personal space, you're also showing that you trust her enough to have time apart. This trust deepens the connection between you, and it shows her that you don't feel threatened by her having her own life outside of the relationship. Moreover, when it comes to respecting personal space, it's essential to acknowledge the need for boundaries in terms of how much time you spend together and the activities you engage in. If she enjoys time alone, don't take it as a personal attack or feel rejected. Instead, support her need for independence and encourage her to take time for herself. In return, she will appreciate the time you spend together more because it won't feel forced or suffocating. When you allow her the freedom to enjoy her own company or time with friends, you're allowing the relationship to breathe, which is necessary for long-term success. The need for personal space also applies to the digital space in today's world. We live in an age where everyone is constantly connected through phones and social media, but respecting each other's digital space is just as important as respecting physical space. Constant texting, checking in, or over-communicating digitally can sometimes feel just as intrusive as physically being too present. Allowing each other the time and space to engage in digital interactions without the pressure of needing constant updates or immediate responses shows respect for each other's autonomy. It's about not feeling entitled to each other's time, especially when it comes to online communication. If she doesn't respond to a text right away or needs time to process something online, give her the space to do so without feeling anxious or upset. This creates a healthy boundary that both partners can respect, allowing the relationship to thrive without constant pressure. In the end, respecting personal space is one of the most important boundaries to set in a relationship. It allows both partners to maintain their individuality, personal growth, and emotional health. It builds trust, enhances attraction, and prevents burnout. When you both understand the importance of space, both physical and emotional, you create a healthier, more balanced relationship where respect flourishes. Setting clear expectations is often seen as a simple aspect of communication, but it's actually one of the most crucial things you can do to ensure a healthy and respectful relationship. When you and your partner are not on the same page, it leads to confusion, misunderstandings, and frustration. Expectations are the silent agreements that govern how both partners behave, communicate, and contribute to the relationship. When these expectations aren't communicated effectively, it's like trying to build a house without a blueprint. Things will inevitably go wrong. Relationships without clear expectations can feel chaotic and unstable because there is no understanding of what is expected from each person, which in turn leads to resentment, disappointment, and a lack of respect. One of the first things to address when setting expectations is understanding what you want and need from the relationship. If you don't have a clear understanding of your own values, desires, and boundaries, it's going to be difficult to communicate these things to your partner. This is where self-awareness becomes crucial. You need to have a strong sense of what you're looking for, what you're willing to accept, and what you can't tolerate. Once you understand these things, you can communicate them in a way that's respectful and clear, which allows the other person to do the same. This prevents the confusion that often arises when one partner expects something that the other partner never knew was important. When both partners are clear about their expectations, there's less room for misinterpretation. For example, if you expect your partner to communicate openly and honestly with you, but you haven't expressed that clearly, it's easy for her to assume that you're fine with less communication or that she doesn't need to check in with you. This type of miscommunication can cause a breakdown in trust, especially if one partner is feeling neglected or ignored while the other isn't aware that they've done anything wrong. The more transparent you are about your needs, the more your partner will understand how to meet them, and in turn, the more she will respect you for communicating them directly instead of leaving things to chance. Setting expectations also involves understanding the practical aspects of your relationship, such as how much time you spend together, how you resolve conflicts, and what kind of emotional support you both need. These are areas where many couples falter because they assume that their partner intuitively knows what they need, but the truth is that no one can read minds. You need to explicitly set expectations around these important aspects to ensure you're both aligned. For example, if you're someone who needs a lot of personal space and your partner doesn't know this, they might interpret your need for space as a lack of interest, which could lead to insecurity or frustration on their part. By setting expectations about how much space you need and why it's important for your well-being, you're creating a clearer understanding of how you both can navigate these moments without conflict or confusion. It's also essential to set expectations around the level of commitment and the direction of the relationship. Are both of you looking for the same thing in the long term? Do you both want the same level of involvement and connection? These kinds of questions should be addressed early on, and both partners should feel free to express their vision for the future. If one person is looking for something casual and the other is interested in a long-term committed relationship, the mismatch in expectations can cause a lot of tension. Without having these conversations early on, both partners risk wasting time or developing feelings that are not reciprocated, leading to hurt and disillusionment. The more you openly discuss your goals and expectations, the more likely it is that you'll be on the same path and can avoid unnecessary pain or disappointment later. Another crucial aspect of setting expectations is how you each handle conflict. Conflict is inevitable in any relationship, and the way both partners approach it can either strengthen or weaken the bond. If one person expects the other to resolve conflicts calmly and rationally, while the other person tends to shut down or become defensive, the relationship can quickly fall into unhealthy patterns of communication. Setting expectations around how you'll handle disagreements, such as agreeing to take a break if things get heated or promising to listen without interrupting, creates a framework that both partners can rely on when tough conversations arise. If you and your partner have agreed that yelling or name-calling is off limits, and one partner crosses that line, it's important to address it and reinforce the expectation that respectful communication is a non-negotiable part of the relationship. These agreements help both partners feel safe to express their feelings without the fear of being attacked or invalidated. Moreover, setting expectations also plays a crucial role in preventing feelings of neglect or overdependence. In relationships, there's a balance between giving and receiving. If one partner feels like they're doing all the emotional work, making all the sacrifices, or compromising more than the other, it can lead to resentment. It's important to discuss what you each need in terms of emotional support, affection, and effort. If you expect regular check-ins, quality time, or certain acts of affection, it's vital to express these needs up front. Similarly, it's just as important to set expectations about how you'll handle your individual needs and responsibilities. If one partner is constantly taking on more than their fair share, they may begin to feel overwhelmed, unappreciated, or taken for granted. By setting expectations that ensure both partners are contributing equally to the relationship, you create a sense of fairness and mutual respect. Respecting each other's expectations also means being flexible and willing to adjust as the relationship evolves. Expectations may change as you both grow individually and as a couple. For example, you may start out wanting to spend every weekend together, but as time goes on, you may find that you need more space for your own activities, hobbies, or friendships. Having open communication about these evolving expectations is key to making sure that both partners feel comfortable and respected. It's also important to check in periodically to ensure that both of you are still aligned in terms of your desires and needs. Regular conversations about what's working and what's not can prevent the buildup of resentment or frustration, as it gives both partners the opportunity to make adjustments before small issues turn into major problems. The concept of setting expectations isn't about creating a rigid set of rules, but rather about establishing a foundation of clarity and respect that allows both partners to feel secure and understood in the relationship. When expectations are clear and mutually agreed upon, you both have a stronger sense of direction and purpose in your relationship. It provides a structure that helps you navigate challenges with confidence, knowing that both of you have an understanding of what is important and non-negotiable. This sense of security leads to greater trust, deeper emotional intimacy, and a stronger overall connection. By setting expectations early on and continually reaffirming them, you create a relationship where both partners feel valued, understood, and respected, qualities that are essential for long-term success. In the end, consistency is the cornerstone of a strong, healthy relationship. It creates a sense of security, fosters trust, and allows both partners to feel valued and respected, whether it's through your actions, words, or emotional support. Being consistent ensures that your relationship remains stable and fulfilling. It shows your partner that you are dependable, that they can rely on you no matter the circumstances, and that you're committed to maintaining a healthy, respectful dynamic. As you continue to nurture consistency in your relationship, you'll see how it strengthens the bond between you and your partner, laying the groundwork for long-term love and mutual respect.